Well, last week, Sir Keir Starmer vowed that he would still be in the Prime Minister's seat in 2027. Kemi Badenoch, the Tory leader, looks set to be there too. After a rocky start in the job, the Conservatives' mood has gone from glum to showing some signs of hope, as their dreadful poll ratings are showing some signs of picking up. But in the second of our New Year interviews with the party leaders, let's find out how she would handle dramatic events around the world and talk about your plans to ban social media for kids, a subject we know is close to many of our viewers' hearts. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
You've used the phrase "get serious" a lot in speeches and interviews. When the world is in such turmoil, do you think the UK is not a serious country?
I think we have been complacent for a very long time. And what I want to see is a stronger Britain and a government that works fully in our national interest. And what that means is making sure that we are a strong economy, can fund our defence properly, and we are taken seriously by other countries around the world rather than people who ignore our rules, exploit our laws and legislation. And I don't think we've been doing that for a very long time.
But you've also said that the Prime Minister needs to be stronger, to use your phrase, when it comes to events around the world. If you look at what's happened in the last week, the government did a deal with other countries to send troops to Ukraine if there's a peace deal. The RAF bombed an Islamic State arms dump in Syria, and the military helped the US seize a tanker off the coast of Iceland and Scotland. So on top of that, what else would you do?
Well, what I would like to see is the strengthening of our country. We are deindustrialising, for example. The plans which the Prime Minister has, along with Ed Miliband, on net zero, are meaning that we're losing our manufacturing capacity. Electricity is very expensive, businesses are closing, unemployment is going up. So the economy is not doing well, which means it's harder to fund defence. Right now, the Strategic Defence Review, which the Prime Minister commissioned, has a huge shortfall. There's not enough money. So we want to see the strengthening of our economy, of our defence, and we will work with him to get there.
But when it comes to foreign policy, which is on the front of people's minds so much this weekend, what else would you do? What does be stronger mean? Would you, for example, send UK troops, perhaps alongside NATO, to Greenland to help secure that country? It's
about being more strategic and thinking more about the long term. So what I would do, for instance, would be stop this ridiculous surrender of British sovereign territory in the Chagos Islands, costing us £35 billion to give away, something that we have to a country that is allied with China. That is not thinking strategically
but I think specifically this weekend, there are very pressing questions.
Yes.
The President of the United States has threatened a NATO ally. There are suggestions this morning that the UK might respond to help that situation by promising some of its own troops to Greenland. So is that something you would recommend? Would you support that?
Well, first of all, I was completely shocked to even hear the comments about Greenland. And I stood up, last week with the Prime Minister saying what he said was absolutely right. We need to make sure that we support NATO countries.
But what would you do about it?
Yes, but what exactly is the threat we're talking about? What I'm not going to do is give a blank check. What is the reason why we are sending troops to Greenland? Is that for defence? Is that to make sure that we are being more serious? NATO spending has been well below what it should be across the countries. So it's all about the specifics. What I'm not going to do is have an operational conversation when I don't have, the level of security briefings in detail which the Prime Minister has.
But hang on,
what I'm doing is setting out a broader strategy about what kind of country we need to be. The world is changing. The rules-based order is quite clearly breaking down. How are we strengthening ourselves? What I'm not going to do is pretend to be a military general and give operational details about where exactly we would send troops. That is not my job. My job is to hold the government to account overall.
But there is a specific issue presented in front of us right now. You've been very happy, and you said that they were shocking comments. You've been happy to criticise Donald Trump's comments about Greenland. The question now is for other leaders to decide what to do about it. So would you support a proposal to send British troops as part of a NATO deployment to help secure Greenland, that really important strategic bit of geography in the world?
Right now, what I'm really worried about is whether there's even going to be a NATO. We need to make sure we keep the US on side. Talking about putting troops to settle a dispute between NATO members, I think, is getting ahead of ourselves. We need to make sure.
That's the question
now.
Well,
I disagree. I disagree with the premise of the question. And what I'm seeing right now is protests in Iran, a strategic threat to NATO, to our country. We're not talking about that. We're talking about Greenland, which actually, I believe, is a second-order issue versus what is happening right now. Of course, we need to make sure that we secure NATO countries. And we stand with Greenland, we stand with Denmark. But right now, talking about troops as if we are going to war with the US, I don't want your viewers to be confused about what it is that the priority is. The priority right now is the British national interest. What are we doing to make our country safer? Making sure NATO is stronger.
But this is exactly the point.
Key.
The threat to Greenland, which you've just said is a second-order issue, is the United States, which has been part of NATO for decades, making a threat to another member of NATO. So in what way is that a second-order issue?
To what is happening today, right now, we are seeing protests in Iran.
And I'll ask you about that in a second.
Yes,
but if you're saying securing Greenland is not at the top of the list...
Because this is hypothetical. The US has not invaded Greenland. So what I don't want us to do is start escalating a conversation well beyond where it has got to. There has been a communique released by lots of European countries saying that they stand with Greenland, that they disagree with President Trump's comments. Let's pause that there and look at what is happening today. Where are the security issues? And what I see from President Trump with what's happening with Venezuela, Venezuela has been helping Iran. He is looking strategically at the axis of authoritarian states, Russia, Iran, China, North Korea. What do we do about that? And we need to get serious and start thinking on that scale to protect our country.
But you believe that's not the most pressing issue right now. So let's talk about that very pressing issue then, what is happening in Iran. Should the US and its allies intervene in some way to help bring an end to the Ayatollah's regime?
Well, it's extraordinary what we're seeing. This is a country that has repressed women probably more than any other, kills gay people. You see these protests and you just hope that they finally succeed. There have been many protests in the Middle East that have ended quite badly. I was very supportive, for example, when Israel had strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities. Iran would very happily wipe out the UK if it thought it could get away with it. It has tried to kill people on our soil. It is an enemy. It calls us the little Satan. So no, I don't have an issue with removing a regime that is trying to harm us. It has its terrorist outposts with Hezbollah all across the world. But what I want us to do is try and find a way to make sure that as a country we are strong, we protect ourselves from threats and reduce the escalation of what I see around the world, an increasing escalation of conflict everywhere. What can we do to reduce that?
You say that you wouldn't have a problem with that regime being removed, but do you think it would be right for America and its allies to help with the removal of that regime?
I think given the threat that we're seeing to the people, I think that would be right. If we were seeing the kind of things that we've seen in other countries, where there were mass massacres, we're hearing about the hospitals being full, it's absolutely terrifying. I don't think a lot of people realise just how scary the Iranian regime is and just how far it has spread its tentacles.
So what could the UK's part in helping to remove that regime be?
Well, you've seen the recent RAF strikes, for instance, in Syria. Mm-hmm. Without over-speculating, we are talking about hypothetical situations. We have worked in alliance with other countries. I think this has to be something that we do with a broad coalition of countries. That is the right way to do it. And to make sure that we create a stable Iran. The worst possible thing would be for this to escalate to a point where the situation gets worse, not better.
But are you suggesting that there could be some form of military intervention then? Because you just said, as we did in Syria, there have been repeated Western allies bombing on Syria to try and go after Islamic State. Are you suggesting that there could be some form of military intervention to help get rid of the Iranian regime?
Has to be about our national interest. The strikes, for instance, in Syria, we're making sure we do not allow terrorists who want to destroy our country to propagate and to succeed. So it all depends on exactly what the situation is. What I don't want to do is talk as if I know exactly what it is we'd be going in to do, what and why. But I think your viewers should understand where I stand. I stand for our country. And what I can see is that there are strong countries who don't want to obey the rules-based order. We need to try and keep that order going. But we need to support the countries who will do right, who are democratic, and work with them in order to achieve that.
And many democracies are, at this moment of danger for the world, are thinking about bringing back one or another form of conscription. The Conservative Manifesto in 2024 talked about a form of national service for young people. Should the UK think about something more radical, some kind of form of conscription?
The national service at the last election was not conscription.
Yes, it was a different thing.
Yes, it was something.
But should something more dramatic now be on the table?
I think it is quite clear that we don't have enough people in our army. But what we need in order to get there is to spend more money on defence. And right now, the government isn't spending enough. It is spending money on welfare. It has its plans for how much welfare it's going to spend till 2031. It doesn't know beyond next year what it's spending on defence.
Would you like to see more young people going to the military? Would you want your own kids to go into the military?
Well, yes. I think my son has even said, jokingly, that he would quite like to be a soldier. But it's about defending our country. I'm worried the young people don't see us as a cohesive country anymore. They don't know what they're fighting for. It's quite important that we give them something to fight for, that we remind them of how amazing our country is and that it is worth fighting for.
And we've talked before, actually, about your concerns about young people and how they see themselves and how they see the country. And so many viewers are in touch with us on a regular basis about one of the things they worry about, which is kids and technology and the worst excesses of the internet, although, of course, there are all sorts of benefits too. You're saying today, not just that the Tories would ban phones in schools, which you've said that before, but that you would actually ban social media for under 16s.
Yes, we want to bring in age limits. I don't like the word ban, but what we are seeing is a lot of children spending so many hours a day on platforms that are profiting from their anxiety, from their distraction, and they are actually designed to be addictive. So what we want to see is common sense, protection for children and freedom for adults. We want to give parents some understanding that the government understands what they're going through. So we want to bring in age limits. The internet is a wild west, social media in particular. We don't think children should be on there, and we want the industry to see the direction of travel so that we can start working with them now in order to get the proper solutions in place.
You don't like the word ban, but an age limit would be a ban. If you're saying that under 16s are not allowed to use social media platforms, that is a ban by any
Yes, it is. But the instinct is about distinguishing between children and adults. We treat children like adults too often, and sometimes we treat adults like children. Let's bring some common sense into it. And, I say this as a mother, myself, 3 children. I worked in tech. It is so difficult and so complicated. And you get the peer pressure, parents feeling that, well, we've got to do it because everybody else is on there. I'm not saying it's going to solve everything. There will be children who find workarounds, just as there are kids who get fake IDs to buy their beer. But this will help get a critical mass of children off social media.
It's interesting there, as part of your reflection on this, is from your own family. I mean, how difficult is it in the Badenoch household to get the kids off the phones?
Yes. My oldest has just got into year 8. She's just been given a phone. She's not allowed to use social media on it. I've put all the restrictions on there, and it's very hard to manage it. There are ways to get around it. But I also see just how addictive, even from my own usage of social media, I can see how it's designed to keep you on there again and again and again. And we're also seeing a huge increase in depression and anxiety, mental health issues. Some of this correlates quite strongly with social media use. We're having people come out of university, go straight on to benefits. We want to curb that. So all of this is linked with our wider strategy. Banning phones in schools, getting people into work. All of these are bricks that are going to build up our policy wall. In
terms, though, of that addiction point, it's interesting you say that also for some adults. Are there platforms or sites that you feel sometimes a bit addicted to? I remember reading once that you played rather a lot of Candy Crush.
I don't know where that came from. I have never played Candy Crush.
Oh, well, we're correcting the record.
No. Never played Candy Crush. No. It's with the, I use Instagram. And it's actually, there are lots of funny things that go on. And you go on it to check a message, and then half an hour later, you realise that you've just been looking at memes and things like that. It is designed to be addictive. Adults should be able to cope with that and manage themselves. Children, we need to protect.
It's interesting, though, hearing you make this argument, because for many people, you came to real prominence when you were the government minister saying freedom of speech had to be protected when the Labour government was trying to bring in new rules about online. And it's not a very conservative policy, is it? Basically, you're trying to limit a business and what they can do, and also telling people what they can do with their kids. Don't parents know better than government?
No, it's a very conservative government. It's a policy. It's a very conservative policy.
To tell people what to do in their own homes?
Well, children, we tell children what to do all the time. Children are not adults. Freedom is for adults. We need to protect children. And also...
Parents what to do?
Well, this is the thing. Many parents want to do this, don't know how, and say they need help. Most parents are asking for assistance. And the reason why it is a Conservative policy is because it gets the balance right on common sense. We're not trying to ban every single thing. This is why I didn't like the word ban. We're not trying to, stop people from using Twitter. What we're trying to say is that, hang on, there's all this draconian legislation. It's clearly not working. Why don't we just do the simple thing first and get the kids off social media, not off the internet, but social media has other things. The volume, the speed, the scale, the ability for strangers to contact children. I don't think that that's right. And I think we need to start recognizing what social media is rather than pretending it's just an encyclopedia where children are learning. That's not quite what it is.
Dealing with tech is a really big modern policy dilemma for governments all over the world and opposition parties too. But there's another dilemma for the traditional parties in the UK. It looks right now that politics is really about two big blocs, not two big traditional parties. If it was the only way of getting Labour out of power, would you ever consider doing a deal with Reform?
Why would I do that? Reform wants to do the same things that Labour wants to do. They want to increase welfare spending. They want to nationalise, Rolls-Royce, oil and gas. I want us to let this country thrive. We need to get Britain working again. We are about unleashing the animal spirits of the country, allowing people to create the growth. It's not government that creates growth. There are two different types of authoritarianism. There are two different types of grievance. We are different. So
they're authoritarian.
Yes. When you look at the sort of things that a lot of the people in Reform talk about in terms of using the state to control things, that's not where we want to be. Right now, I believe that government is doing too much. We're spending too much. We need to actually step back, focus on the things that only government can do, like defence, like policing, and actually allow business to grow. Instead, what Labour is doing is it's taxing business. It is, I find it, quite draconian, a lot of what it is doing, which is restrictive.
I just wonder, you've been in the job for just over a year now, and it's our first conversation in 2026. And the Tories polling, looks a bit healthier than it has done for some time. Have you changed how you do the job in the last year, or have you just got more experience to draw on? I
think it is more experience. The first thing I did on becoming leader was actually stop talking and start listening. I had lots of town halls, going out to businesses, places, no cameras, just hearing from people. Now I've started talking, and I think that's what's making the difference. And as Labour is in government longer, it's clearer what they are doing. So it is clearer what we are opposing, not just reflexive opposition.
I remember too, just before you started the job, there was some suggestion and some reporting that some of your colleagues thought you could be a bit abrasive and a bit rude. You said you might soften your approach. Have you done that? Because in Prime Minister's questions, you seem to be doing the opposite.
Yes, I have done the opposite in Prime Minister's questions. I'm trying to channel the anger that a lot of people out there feel about the way the country is being run. But I've always been very collegiate with colleagues. We are a team. The Conservative Party is the most united party. We're not a one-man band. We're not all squabbling amongst ourselves like Labour are on the economy or on who's going to be Prime Minister. We've learned a lot of lessons. I'm not saying that it was perfect when we were there, but we've acknowledged our mistakes. We've learned a lot of lessons, and we think we're the only party that's both competent enough and brave enough to take the tough decisions that will get the country in the right place.
Kemi Badenoch, thanks very much indeed for joining us at the beginning of 2026. We'll see you soon. Thanks very much indeed.